Think of the absolute gold standard for modern world building. The sprawling maps, the deep lore, the cinematic scale of high fantasy. The architect of that gold standard didn't build his universe because he had a gripping plot in mind. He didn't even start with characters. John Ronald Reuel Tolkien was an Oxford philologist. His professional reality was rooted in the history and structure of ancient languages. He admitted that he didn't invent languages to fit his stories. The stories were written to provide a world where his languages could be spoken. So how does a professor's private hobby of drafting imaginary grammar rules end up spawning an entire literary genre? The obsession started early. By the time Tolkien was left an orphan at age 12, his mother had steeped him in Latin and botany, intertwining his love for words and nature. This manuscript shows Old English, one of the many dead and historic languages Tolkien mastered as an academic, alongside Old Norse and Gothic. He soon turned to conlanguing, the act of constructing new languages from scratch. To create his elven tongues, Quenya and Sindarin, he fused the phonetic patterns of Finnish and Welsh. But he hit a structural roadblock. A language cannot survive in a vacuum. It requires a culture to speak it, and a culture requires a history. To make his linguistic experiment functionally complete, he had to architect an entire mythic prehistory to support it. To give that required history authentic weight, he drew from the deep, dark well of his own tragedy. Tolkien grew up in the rural West Midlands. These rolling green hills and deep forests became his model for the Shire, sparking his lifelong environmentalism. But he watched that same countryside get swallowed by the machinery and smokestacks of industrial expansion. Then came the mechanical horrors of World War I. Tolkien served as a communications officer at the Battle of the Somme, where he lost almost every close friend he had. He wove these memories into the text. The smoke and mechanical grinding of the Somme echo in the furnaces of Isengard, while his reverence for the lost woods of his youth found a voice in the slow, ancient speech of the Ents. This invented history became a way for Tolkien to reconcile his love for the earth with the machines that scarred it and the war that took his friends. While recovering from trench fever in a military hospital, he began drafting the Book of Lost Tales. He felt England lacked a rich, interconnected indigenous mythology like the Norse sagas, and this was his attempt to write one. Years later, as a professor at Oxford, he shared these developing ideas with a literary discussion group called the Inklings, alongside close friends like the author C.S. Lewis. Then, while grading a blank exam paper, a spontaneous thought arrived. He impulsively scribbled a single sentence. "In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit." Backed by decades of unseen, meticulous world-building, that single sentence anchored a fully realized universe, turning the 1937 novel into a massive success. This image displays his novel alongside the fold-out map he created. When his publisher requested a sequel, it triggered a 17-year project that unleashed the full weight of his linguistic history, The Lord of the Rings. Tolkien strictly despised direct allegory. He frequently reminded readers that his work was not a one-to-one commentary on World War II. Instead, the narrative was driven by his deeply held Catholic faith. He infused his dark mythic history with themes of grace, resurrection, and the corrosive nature of absolute power. The weight of Middle-earth rests on actual linguistic mathematics and genuine trauma, lending the world an internal consistency that plot alone cannot provide. He mirrored the very theme of his epic, the quiet work of a single academic, sketching grammar rules, could redefine how the world imagines heroism.